Welcome to the Patriot Barbie Podcast. This show is made possible by Spreely Media. Download the Freedom Hub app today and join the free speech movement. I want to thank the people and the companies that keep my show going. All my sponsors can be found on patriotbarbie.com on my shop page. Century H2O, water systems for your home that provide clean, toxic-free, fluoride-free, and pharmaceutical-free drinking water for your family and pets for under $300. Dylan's Restaurants has been a proud podcast partner for years, and the owner is my personal friend. With 4 locations throughout Arizona, you'll always find one to dine at and love, especially the zoo. Well, especially the ranch. Well, maybe the one floating on Lake Pleasant. Dang it, they're all good. Support your freedom-loving businesses, and please check out Dylan's Restaurants. Small business owners, claim your employee retention tax credit for 2020 and 21 with an accountant you can trust. If you don't know what this is, you could be missing out on hundreds of thousands of dollars. Go to patriotbarbie.com and click on my partners page to read up. My Freedom Cart, a conservative-owned, made-in-America, toxic-free company that lets you shop online and delivers everything to your front door. Clean products, protein, snacks, hair care, makeup, toiletries. Dude, ditch Amazon, keep the perks, and support a pro-life and pro-freedom company. myfreedomcart.com. My Beautiful Smile is brought to you by Dr. Daniel Slyke. His dental team is passionate, detailed, gentle, and clearly very talented. My entire smile has been restored to stunning, and I owe it all to him. He's right here in Scottsdale, and consults are free. Go to patriotbarbie.com, look him up, and schedule your free consultation. Are you worried about spike proteins? If not, you should be. Get the spike formula developed by experts like Dr. Peter McCullough from the Wellness Company by going to twc.health/PatriotBarbie. Listeners of my podcast can use code PatriotBarbie at checkout for a discount. You guys, once again, you can find all my partners, my makeup line, my Patriot wine, my merch company, and the Freedom Cart at patriotbarbie.com under the shop page. Now, are you ready to get started? Let's go. Welcome to the Patriot Barbie Podcast. I'm your host, Lindsey Graham, author and conservative activist. I love Jesus. I love America. I'm a proud wife, mom of 3, and I'm having bold and witty conversations with America's patriots, the ones that cancel culture desperately want to blacklist. Trust me, I've been there. In 2020, I defied government lockdowns in Oregon, reopened my salon, and became an icon of freedom. I've been targeted by government and raging liberals every day since, and I refuse to back down. Patriots, I'm here to tell you, your values are worth fighting for. The Patriot Barbie Podcast starts now. Welcome to the Patriot Barbie Podcast. As you guys know, a lot of my movement is based in the pro-life area. I have my own abortion story that I've shared openly many, many times. Oh gosh, what we do for pro-life is it can extend to so many different areas, donating to pro-life organizations, supporting companies that are pro-life, boycotting and blacklisting companies like Amazon that donate to send their employees to get abortions. There's a lot that we can do. Some people go out and actually advocate, boots on the ground, rally, speak. I do a little bit of that. But my next guest on the podcast today is someone that I repeatedly see boots on the grounds, megaphone in hand, doing what needs to be done and empowering women to choose life and making sure that people are aware of what is happening with abortion. And one of my favorite clips with her is on a show speaking about how a mother had a child beaten to death over what seemed to be a misunderstanding on a racial issue. And the boy was beaten to a bloody, bloody pulp. And the mother asked for an open casket, which was completely unheard of. And she said, I want the world to know what was done to my child. And it was Savannah calling for, the opening the casket on abortion. And what does it really, really do to not just the babies? What does it do to the mother? And it's a powerful concept because, society has just downplayed and downgraded the abortion industry to it's not a baby, it's just a fetus. And what we're seeing now is, the mutilation and murder of children. And it's hopefully getting harder and harder for normal people to ignore. So I'm excited to touch on, of course, again, the pro-life movement. And a little bit about Savannah is Savannah Craven is a pro-life activist and conservative content creator. Over the past 2 years, she's gained a social media following, making content on her TikTok, as well as for Blexit America. Blexit stands for the Black Exit from the Democratic Party, founded by Candace Owens and Officer Brandon Tatum. She's made content with Prager Force and Live Action. Savannah has been featured in the New York Times, the Washington Post, Impact with ABC News on Hulu, Generations documentary with MSNBC, Revolt Black News, and more. Savannah is proud to represent Blexit America and Turning Point USA as an ambassador. She currently resides in Manhattan, New York, and serves the community by starting new pro-life groups across the Northeast and encouraging young people to become strong pro-life leaders. Savannah, welcome to the Patriot Barbie Podcast.
Thank you so much, Lindsey, for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
You are so adorable. How in the world, how old are you?
I am 21 years old.
Oh my gosh. I was like, now that I'm looking at her, she's decently young. And I would have just guessed like 25 because I'm so old. I don't know how old people are anymore. But I'm like, okay, you're really young. This is such an incredible resume for 21. I hope you're proud of yourself.
Thank you. Well,
You should be.
I couldn't be here without people like you and organizations like Blexit and Turning Point for supporting me and just people believing in me. You know, it takes a village. So
yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm happy to uplift your voice. We need young women like you saying, hey, my entire generation says this is normal. It's not normal. I don't know if you know this, but I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and at 22, I had an abortion, and it it's going to affect me the rest of my life. I was driving down I-10, which is our major freeway, like 5-6 lanes on each side. And right up on this overpass was this huge, like 20-foot banner that said abortion is normal. And I got so pissed. I was like, all right, this is either the Holy Spirit or it's me as a sinner. But I pulled my car over, turned around, went up on that walkway, and I ripped that banner down, crumpled it up, and brought it home. And I was like, I don't care. I'm like, this is activism and or jail time. But I'm like, you know what? If one girl drives by and is like, deciding, do I or do I not kill my baby? Like, I don't want that to be there for her to be like, oh, it was a sign. It's normal. It's okay. And like, crap like that is just the stuff that society is doing to make abortion seem so lackadaisical. It's starting to really piss us off. So I'm curious, like, of all of the movements, what makes you so passionate about abortion?
Sure. So it all started when I was around 11 or 12 years old. I had a pro-life group come to my CCD class, and we were handed little fetal models, 12-week-old fetal models, and there was different colors. So I picked a little brown one.
Oh.
And throughout the day, we were able to, we were told that we need to take care of our fetal model. We got to name them. And throughout the day, on a 11 or 12-year-old level, these people explained life in the womb. And being an only child, I had never, experienced my mom being pregnant, with a sibling of mine. So this was the first time I had ever seen something like this. And I never really realized that I was a human being, even when I was in my mom, right? It's kind of like this idea where you think a bird drops us off on, steps. And it's so much more than that. And, being raised a Christian, being raised Catholic, I always valued life. And we were always taught that life was valuable at every stage from womb to tomb. So when I was in high school, I started to, hear the word abortion, and I always knew that it was bad, but I never quite really understood what all went into it. And until I had my very, own personal experience where my best friend became pregnant our senior year of high school, and she considered abortion. And although I didn't know her super well, we had actually just become friends that year. I was the first person that she told. And she told me, I can't do this. I'm gonna get an abortion. Well, growing up in South Carolina, it was, it's not very common to have abortion facilities right in our neighborhood. So the closest facility is 2 hours away. And the morning that she went to go drive her car to her appointment to Charleston, South Carolina, she had actually filled up her tires with air the night before to make sure she could make the drive. And she woke up in the morning and one of her tires was completely flat.
Thank you, Jesus.
Praise God. He
Yep.
called me from class, and I was in class, and I was like, "Well, I have to take this call. I mean, this is my friend, and I need to be there for her." And she called me, and she said I didn't go, and she was crying, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, why didn't you go?" And she told me what had happened, and she said that this is the sign that I've been praying for, and now her sweet little boy Omari is going to be 4 this year. And it's just so crazy because I've watched her just blossom into this amazing mother. And although it has not been easy, she took a circumstance that society didn't exactly look at, as ideal. And she just is stronger than her circumstances. Women are stronger than their circumstances. And now she lives in her own place. She's got a good job. And we look back and we look at Omari and we just are like, how could you ever have thought, she says, how could I ever have thought to get rid of this precious gift that is life?
Yeah, I think, gosh, there's so many things about that story that trigger ideas and statements, but society has told women that children are a burden. And I'm a mom of 3 now, 9, 6, and 3, and women joke all the time about like, these kids are driving me nuts, and all that. And I'm starting to think, do we stop making those jokes, right? Like, kids drive us nuts. I'm sure Omari drives his mother nuts. But if we say those things, do other women who don't have kids really think it's that terrible? Because what society is saying is that you can have an abortion and not be remorseful, and that your life will be easier, or it will be affordable, and all these things. And what we know is that women who birth their children would never, ever look at that child and go, yeah, I wish I would have aborted you. Never.
Yeah.
So like, that message isn't getting out. And like you say, you triggered an idea that I'd never even thought of, which is that you're an only child and you've never seen like a baby in a womb and then be birthed. And then so many only children may be completely cut off from the idea that God creates us at conception because they've never experienced that. But man, I'm like, where do I go with this? So I wonder too, like, did she share with you, I'm praying for a sign, or was that something she kept private between her and God?
Well, she had every now and then told me that, I don't want to do this, but abortion is normal in my family. I literally am just trying to get my life together, about to graduate. How can I possibly have a child right now? And that's what's so sad. And that's why Students for Life is so important, because all of this starts when people are children. We have to start educating when people, humans start to understand things, right? And creating a culture of life on your campus, whether that be middle school, high school, and college, especially because that's the group of people that abortion is being pushed on the most. They're trying to make abortion pill vending machines, or trying to make these abortion pills available in the school nurse's office, because they're saying, well, you couldn't possibly be a mom and have your degree. You couldn't possibly have a successful career and be a mom. And it's like, I mean, these people call themselves feminists. It's like, well, you're literally being misogynistic right now. You're telling a woman that she can't have a child and also pursue her goals. That's so anti-woman. And so, that's our job, is to create that culture of life and create that community of support on every single campus that we can, because society, social media is telling women that they can't. And abortion is telling women that you can't do this and also have your dreams.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Women are probably stronger than men. That's not the way God created us. We're not actually physically stronger than men.
Yeah.
But as far as being able to create life in our bodies, sustain and feed and nurture that life, and then when that life comes out, to be able to sustain and nurture that life with our own body still for another couple years, is one of the most incredible miracles that God has created. And to say, great, you can do that, but you can't do anything else. And not even like if you're single. They're even telling women that are married, if you want a career, or if you don't want to be stuck at home doing laundry and dishes, like there's no joy in that, right? That this baby is going to get in the way, when the real truth is that this baby will be the best thing that's ever happened to you, regardless of your financial situation, regardless of your marital or relationship situation, and regardless of what your career is headed toward. And
Yeah.
it's so weird that we see all these empowered women who support abortion, but no one in the media, of course, the mainstream media is highlighting powerful women, even like myself, who has 3 kids and still has a career. Hello. Like, where that's real women empowerment. We're not so weak we can't micromanage. We can do anything.
Exactly. And just it's really just starting from middle school, high school age where they're pushing, oh, well, if you're in high school, if you're 16, 15, you need to get on birth control, you need to suppress your fertility. Your fertility is not a gift. It's something that's going to get in the way of you being able to just live freely. We know what that means.
Yep.
Instead of actually cultivating healthy and loving relationships and understanding that not only if you're engaging in hookup culture, are you, putting yourself at the possibility of getting pregnant with somebody that maybe you shouldn't be having as the father or the mother of your children, but you're also putting yourself at risk for, like, in the future, not being able to really connect with people.
Mhm.
Right. And some women are on birth control for over 30 years. And then they get to that point where they've had their career, they've gotten everything, they've accomplished everything that they've wanted to, and now they want to start a family, and they're having trouble even conceiving a child because we've been told that injecting ourselves or just feeding ourselves these hormones for decades is just normal, when in all actuality, it's damaging our minds and our bodies.
Right. I've had this idea tossing around in my head for a few months, which is that the Bible is God's, law, but it seems to me like we've all had our fun disobeying the law, and some laws are not as fun to disobey, and some are have a lot of consequences.
Yeah.
But His law was written to protect us, and what we're seeing is that the more we sexualize kids in junior high, even elementary school, teach women that it's empowering to sleep around. But then at the same time, while you're empowering them to sleep around, that sleeping around would lead to pregnancy eventually. But no, you don't want that. So why wouldn't we teach them, maybe don't sleep around because your body does this and it's a miracle. But if you're not ready for that miracle, the smart thing to do would be to not. And God's law is there to protect us. And I'm more and more becoming like a Quaker. I'm like, if we could all just go back to living on the prairie and eating like meat and vegetables, and nobody sleeps with anybody till they're married. I know that's not normal, but these problems would all be solved. Like, they literally would all be solved if we all obeyed God's word. And I know it's 2023 and that's never going to happen, but why aren't we at least dropping those kind of hints? Like, hey, I know it's kind of prude to wait till you're married, but look at all of the problems it would prevent if you did. Forget that it's a Christian belief, right? Or a biblical belief. What if you did? You wouldn't even need to worry about birth control. You wouldn't need to worry about an unplanned pregnancy.
And chastity is looked at as something that is a Christian view, and many Christians we do share that, and that's what God teaches. It's actually it's a way of life to protect yourself, and it's the greatest form of commitment to the person that you're going to dedicate your life to. Because if you're willing to wait for that person, to commit to yourself to that person without engaging in that the strongest level of connection that you can bond with somebody right? This is the most vulnerable that you can be with somebody. And we started looking at it like that, rather than something like you're holding back from your partner, right?
Yeah.
We looked at it as something like the greatest form of dedication and commitment. I think people would be much more open to the idea of it.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm going to ask you a question that's going to probably be kind of funny when I ask it, but and now that I've read a little bit more of your bio, your friend in high school, was she Black?
Yes.
Okay. So clearly, Candace Owens talks about this often. So there's another, like, a politician, I can't think of her name. Anyway, that the genocide that is happening with abortion is so immensely, like, dedicated to the Black culture.
Yeah.
So do you advocate on behalf of the Black community as far as being pro-life and anti-abortion? Because we know that Black babies are being killed at a much higher rate than white babies. And that just, to me, seems incredibly racist, and the Democratic Party just is immersed in it. So what is your role or your opinion there on abortion in the Black community?
Sure, absolutely. So this is actually the reason that's sparked my activism and why I decided to make this my career. Is I came across a video from Live Action, who is actually done by my friend James O'Keefe with OMG O'Keefe
Yeah.
Media Group,
Whoop,
and he did a video with them undercover, calling Planned Parenthoods around the country, asking if he could fund an abortion specifically on a Black baby. And every single one of them said yes. And not only a yes, but it was like a confident yes. And I started to do more research. And of course, this was during the time where I came back from New York City from musical theater school, and I was back home in South Carolina. And I just came across this video, nothing to do really during COVID times, right? And I was like, well, why is Black Lives Matter not talking about this? There's this entire organization dedicated to ending people that look like me, yet these organizations, all these riots are happening, right? But there's no riots in the street for these Black babies that are being murdered.
Right.
And so I started sharing this video with my friends, my family, and they were like, oh, I had no idea about this. And then I found out about Margaret Sanger, who's the founder of Planned Parenthood, who was a proud racist and eugenicist. And she literally wanted to end the Black race. She wanted to make one race. She talked about sending people that had disabilities and that were Black and minorities on islands and having them living away from society. She wanted to put birth control in the water system so that when these minorities drink it, of course, they wouldn't be able to reproduce. And I was just sitting here like, and this organization still exists.
Yeah.
And we are giving $500 million of our taxpayer dollars to them every single year.
So everybody is?
Well, in some states, yes.
Okay.
So
how is that happening? And I'm sorry if I'm asking you questions that you don't know the answer to, but I'm like, wait, how are we funding Planned Parenthood?
Well, it goes through a lot of different channels, and I think it's hidden under a lot of different names. So like reproductive, help, everything, things like that. Women's health, they try to put it in through there. But we have the Hyde Amendment, which actually helps stop these abortions funding going toward our taxpayer dollars, which Biden and many other politicians want to reverse, obviously, because they want money going toward this.
Yes.
But they don't want our money going toward helping women have longer maternity leaves or getting, mothers better pay. So, they're so
there's that.
But,
so pro-woman. Yeah. Empowerment. So did Margaret Sanger, and I've kind of heard this story, but you seem to be very well versed in it. She founded Planned Parenthood.
Yes. So this was originally, called the Negro Project, among other things. And basically, she sent Black pastors into the Black community and was giving them birth control. And it's just really, really sad. Black women are only about 8% of the population, yet we're sold 36% of abortions. Right. That is in New York City, where I live, 1 in 2 Black babies were aborted in 2019. And, we have to sit back and think like, oh, why are we the minority? Why are there so little Black people? And it's like, because we've literally aborted over 20 million of them.
Yeah. Well, half. You just said half the babies in New York are killed.
Yeah. And I've actually had pro-abortion protesters, come up to me and say, you're Black. How in the world could you be pro-life? And I'm like, do you think Black women are incapable of being mothers? Do you think that Black men are not capable of being good fathers? I mean, what are you trying to place here? They think that just killing us is going to fix the issues with our community. They would rather end the lives of the people that are suffering from an injustice rather than actually help them.
Right. I mean, it's honestly, I'm trying to figure out why I would even need to say this, because some people are so incredibly dense, mostly the left. But how is it not the most racist belief in the world to say, how how can you be Black and pro-life? Like, hold on. Did you
Yeah.
just intermix somehow my skin color with whether or not I should birth a child or should
Yeah,
raise a child? Like,
exactly.
it doesn't even make sense to me. If anything, it screams, hey, your skin color makes you so incapable and so not financially fit or career oriented that you shouldn't even have kids because you're Black. I mean, that's basically what the
Yeah.
left is saying.
Right.
And we're being
They
called racist.
also, it's so crazy because they're so hypocritical because then they'll go and just, gush over people like Rihanna, who literally is pregnant and performed at the Super Bowl. I mean, that's the most, pro woman, pro life performance I've ever
Yeah.
seen. It's like this girl's up on a stage like 1,000 feet in the air, you know, singing her lungs
With
off
child. Yeah.
with a child inside of her.
Yeah.
And then we uplift people like Michelle Obama that was the first lady and has children and was doing a job as big as that, yet you can't tell a girl going to school that she can have a child. You can't tell a woman that she could be a nurse or be an actress and also be a mom. It's just so hypocritical to me. And then of course they'll offer up that $300, $500 as soon as she gets pregnant, right? And says, well, you can just go get an abortion, take care of it. No
Right.
worries. But we're not going to help you with diapers or food or, help you with after school care.
Yeah. I mean, if you choose life, which is at sometimes the harder decision and the harder road, n- where is Planned Parenthood to say, all right, well, we kind of wish you would have killed your kid, but since you didn't, here's help. They
Right.
would
Yeah, they
rather,
don't.
I mean, bye. Like,
Exactly.
it's so disappointing. It's so sad. So do you tell me about, I watched a reel recently where a white girl was screaming at you that she hates white people and it was about abortion. So I'm like, hold on, is this a BLM rally or is this a pro-life rally? Which is it? Like,
Yes, so that was at the International Walk for Life here in New York City last Saturday. And this woman I see very, very often outside of Planned Parenthood when the group at St. Patrick's Basilica goes over every first Saturday of the month, and we pray the rosary over to the Planned Parenthood. And then a lot of us sidewalk counsel, which means we hand out local pregnancy resource centers to moms walking in. And this woman sees me a lot, but this is the first time she actually spoke to me. And she made a comment to me that I was standing with a bunch of white boys, which I don't know why that was an issue, but apparently it really triggered her. And I said, why do you have such a problem with white men? And then she went on to say, like, they have the most power in this country. I hate white people and I'm white, so I can say that, something like that.
oh my
And
God.
then I said, oh, well, do you hate Black people too, since you're out here advocating for killing their babies? And she says, no, I wish I was Black. Why a woman would want to be a part of a community that's the most oppressed and incapable, I have no idea, but here we go.
Right? According to your own logic, like we
Yeah,
shouldn't even sing the national anthem because we're so oppressed, but you wish you were me.
I know. And it's
Oh
it's
my
crazy
gosh.
to just look at someone and just assume because they're white or because they're Black that they've had every same experience as another person, the same color as them. I'm somebody who I really have never received racism from white people. It's actually been more from Black people, calling me Uncle Tom, saying that I'm not Black enough because I
Oh
have a
gosh.
white mother. The fact that I'm conservative or that I'm Christian, that I serve, the white man or I dance for the white man. And it's like, no, actually, I was raised by a very strong single mother that told me I could think whatever I wanted to as long as I could back it up with facts. And
Ooh.
I just came to know that God is the truth. Conservative values are the truth, and being pro-life is the truth because you you cannot value life at any stage if you don't value it from the moment it begins.
Absolutely. Somebody write that down. I watched a Chicago Chicago PD. It's a show, all the Chicagos.
Yeah.
And I can't watch anything as blind entertainment anymore. I've got to see like the underlying, propaganda and everything.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
show is very non-woke, and which I appreciate. Yeah. So, quick rundown. This was spread out over 4 episodes, but in one of the episodes, 2 of the police officers are sleeping together, and she gets pregnant. Well, then of course there's a discussion about what do we do? And I'm like, ooh, this show better not advocate for abortion. And she says, it's not the right time. I'm not ready. I think I should just have an abortion. So I'm not sure what. Oh, so she then worked with a victim who went on to say that thank you for saving my son. He's the best thing that's ever happened. I don't know what I'd do without him. So I'm like, oh, here we go. So of course she realized, I think I better have this child. I don't want her to have regrets. And she says, quote, I don't want to have regrets. So then she decides. So now we've got an episode where she says, according to propaganda, this child is not a child. I get to decide its worth. And I've decided that it doesn't deserve to live. Right. Mm-hmm. And now she says, okay, I do think I want this child. It does deserve to live. And as its mother, I'm choosing to give it life. Okay, great. Moving on. She's pregnant. She needs to be on desk duty. She pursues a criminal that she shouldn't. She gets beat up. She miscarries. And now we're at a scene in the hospital where she is beyond devastated. And I've had 3 miscarriages, so I, completely can relate to what that feels like. Yeah. And she is crying, devastated. She's stoic. She's like a zombie. She has lost the baby. And now we're at a situation where she was excited to be a mother. She saw value in her child's life. She was planning a life and a future with that child. And now it's gone and it's hurtful. And I went, oh my gosh, this whole 3 episodes, this child's life is determined by her feelings at the moment. And how can we live like that? Because she went through, I don't want you. I want you. Now you're gone. And it's absolutely devastated me. And I'm like, hold on, 2 episodes ago, she was going to kill you herself. So we've just determined that a mother's feelings towards her infant in her stomach can change. I mean, day to day, hour to hour.
And that's such a dangerous thought process because it's like, look at all the mistakes that we've made in our history, just in this country, when we looked at a group of people and said, well, you're not really as human as this other group of people, or we're going to classify you as 3/5 of a person. Right. And I'm not trying to compare, abortion to slavery, but these 2 injustices happen for the same reason. We looked at a group of people and we said, you're not as worthy as this group of people. So therefore we can do whatever we want to you. We can own you, we can sell you, we can use you however we want. And, we recognize that slavery was wrong. It was inhumane. And so we abolished it. Right.
Right.
Now we have abortion, which is another form of dehumanization. It's people in the womb that just because they're not fully developed, which I always like to say, I'm not fully developed because your brain actually doesn't fully develop until 25. So does that mean I'm less of a person than somebody that's older than 25? Of course not. Right. But we say, well, you're dependent on somebody else, so we can do whatever we want with you. But then if you're wanted, then it's a baby. But if it's not wanted, it's just a fetus or it's just a clump of cells. Yeah. Like, perception is not reality. Like, that's so dangerous. And this is all in the name of choice. We just say, well, it's a woman's choice. It's a woman's choice to do whatever. But it's like, I honestly think that abortion is for men, because I think it was designed for men, because it literally is just an easy way out, right? We put it on the woman. We say, well, it's your body, it's your choice, you can do whatever. And so the men that go around and, use women can just hand over that $300 and say, well, I don't want to be the father.
Right.
So here you go. Peace out later. Yeah. And then now this woman is left alone, and she's being told that it's better for her to just kill her child than it would be for her to actually seek out resources and have a community to help her and uplift her. Yeah.
And the pro-choice argument has never really worked for me. Like, it's a woman's choice. And it's like, yeah, she had 3 to 4 pretty good choices before this happened. And again, I know it's 2023, but she could have chosen not to sleep with him. She could have chosen to use protection. She could have chosen to be on birth control. She had choices. And she made those choices, and it led to this. And I don't like the word consequence, because a baby is not a consequence, but it led to this circumstance. She chose to do all of the things that led up to this circumstance. And now she wants that one choice to be able to kill her baby. She had choices. No one is taking away her choices, those choices to be on birth control or not have sex or whatever. are still there. No one is taking those away.
Exactly.
It's just it's maddening.
Yeah, and the thing is that every action has a reaction. And not only, when you lay down and sleep with someone, are you risking the possibility of getting pregnant, but you're also risking the possibility of getting STIs and things like that. It's like playing the lottery. When you play the lottery, you consent to win and you also consent to lose. So we know that if you are engaging in heterosexual sex, that you have the possibility of getting pregnant. And if you don't know that, then you should not be having sex.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just
well, and but they do know that. Like, there is no one that's like, I didn't know I could get pregnant from sex. They're teaching it in freaking 6th grade now. So like, other than the 0.01% of young girls that, were raped or whatever, which is just a terribly sad statistic, that didn't know their bodies. Other than those, if you're having sex, you're aware that that's how babies are made. Every female that is having sex knows this is how children are made. I mean, I remember being a kid and I was raised in a really devout Christian home. I mean, I remember before sex ed thinking, I think you can get pregnant from kissing. No kissing. Like you didn't know.
Right.
The minute you're mature enough to make that decision, you are aware of what happens. And so every woman, every female has, except for that 0.01%, knows that what they're doing could lead to a baby. And they have made multiple choices up until that point to conceive that child.
Exactly. And even in that, 0.01%, we still recognize that those women matter. But let's look at it like this. This is the pro-life perspective. And this is what I always say in cases of sexual assault is her getting an abortion, if she does conceive in that situation, is that going to erase the trauma that's been inflicted on her? Is that going to make her forget? Absolutely not. People that have been taken advantage of and abused in any way will never forget that. And an abortion is basically just a Band-Aid. It covers up that invisible scar that's been inflicted on her. And it's just another traumatic experience. It's another act of violence that's not going to solve anything. And as pro-lifers, we never tell women that they have to parent, that they have to be a mother, right?
Right.
But with her choosing life for that baby, which is such a gracious thing to do, and it's going to be hard. We know that, but there's an entire movement here ready to support her in any way that she needs to give that child a choice, and to live and to have that opportunity to have their life, right?
Yep.
If we look at every single person as a gift, no matter how they came to be, we would have just more respect for people all around.
Right.
And there's so many people out there that we walk past on the street that they could have been conceived in rape. How are you going to tell them that they're less worthy of life, or that they would have been better off dead just because of the way they were conceived? It's horrible.
And how could they ever tell themselves that? Like, oh, because of how my mother got pregnant, I wish I'd never been born. They would never believe that about themselves. So why in the world would we spread the message that a baby's life matters only if the mother and father made the baby out of love and wedlock? I mean, all of those things. Exactly. And gosh, you say so many good things, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I want to touch on it. Oh, we're missing the entire the entire biblical basis of this belief. And that's why when women give birth to their child, even if that child was conceived in rape, I would guess that when that baby comes out, that uncontrollable, instinctual, natural gift that God gave us to love our child, she would look at that child, and no matter how it was created, that would be God turning that horrible event into good, right? We believe in Romans 8 that God turns all things to good for those who love him. If a woman was raped and she may the rest of her life wonder, why did that happen to me? If she conceived and gave birth, that child would be a blessing or a gift to the family that adopted him or her. Or that woman would give birth and go, oh my gosh, despite how this baby came to me, this is the best thing that's ever happened. And I praise God for this baby. But we don't have a culture that loves, appreciates, respects, or even recognizes what God can do with something that horrible. And we can change politics and legislation and bills and propaganda. But if everybody in America believed in God again, we wouldn't be having this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is why a lot of these people think this way and why they can't value others is because they don't even value themselves. I mean, I'm among a generation that is, what is it, like over 60% of us identify with one of the LGBTQ plus. We don't know our gender. We don't really know who we really are. We're confused. We feel unhappy in our own body. So how, if I don't even feel secure with myself and I don't even see myself as valuable, how in the world could I see somebody that I can't even see as valuable, right?
Yeah.
How could I care about someone that I don't know, that I can't see? Like this is the problem. And so if we started teaching kids from the very beginning, when they start to even understand things, that you are valuable how you are born. You don't need to fix anything about yourself. You were born perfectly because God created you. He knew you before he formed you in the womb, and you are irreplaceable. Literally, each one of us are irreplaceable. You cannot repeat anyone, you know?
Yeah.
And so we're all so unique and we're so perfect in God's eyes. And it's just so sad to see so many of my peers and people my age so confused and feel so worthless in their own bodies.
Yeah. And I know that you speak out a little bit on kind of the trans movement in children too. And I think you just touched on that, is that not only are we not teaching people your age or kids to value babies in the womb, but to value even their own identity, that like, you are incredibly uniquely made, but we're not teaching that, right? Because that would be a God belief, unless somebody can scientifically prove that each person is, I mean, they can with DNA, but these kids, they're not being taught that. They're being taught that there's an endless amount of genders and that you can change it. And how can we expect them to value life? They can't even stop to appreciate their own life in the way that it was formed, which is from a master creator who picked every hair on our head and loves us, unconditionally.
Exactly. And
we're not
when I was growing up, I mean, I was in high school not too long ago, and there were tomboys, there were people that were gay and lesbian and whatever, but it's just to think like, oh, I don't really like wearing pink, or I don't like wearing flowery dresses, so I just must be transgender, or it's just crazy, and I always use this comparison. What if your child had come to you and said, Mom, I don't feel like my right foot should be on my body? Like most parents, I would say 99.9% of parents would say, okay, that's not normal. Let's get you to a doctor and see what's going on. But then now your son comes to you and says, Mom, I don't think my penis should be on my body. They're just sending them right in there as young as 13, 14, 15 years old, and just literally mutilating their body, something that cannot be undone.
Yeah.
And we're seeing now I've been watching this week, following up on the viral clip of one of the most well-known, I think the most well-known transgender kids, Jazz Jennings, who started to transition into a girl at age 5, I believe it was, and got on hormone blockers when she was only 11 years old. So this resulted in her private parts not fully developing, and when she went to go and have the transformative surgery to get her penis formed into a vagina, she had to get it done 4 times because there was not enough skin. There was not enough skin built up around the area, and they had to do it 4 times. And her mom has spoken out about the fact that she has to dilate every single day because this hole that is essentially an open wound that's trying to heal itself, because that's what our bodies naturally do, is closing up. In a recent video, she says to her mom, I never feel like myself ever. I don't know who I am. So we have this child that was exploited online since they were 5 years old, 5, 6 years old, has the whole world watching their entire life. Maybe this child was confused at 5 or 6, but in reality, these parents didn't take the authority that they needed to take.
Right.
They didn't say, well, that's fine if you feel that way. But they literally said, oh, well, let's get you on these hormones. I mean, she was basically an experiment.
Yeah. Yeah.
For these doctors and for these people. And now we have her now. She's got binge eating disorder. She is very overweight. She's had to have this destructive surgery 4 times. This is a surgery that's only supposed to be doing 1 time. She was basically a guinea pig.
And she's a he. So
she's a he. Yeah.
Yeah. So he has mutilated his penis. He can never get a woman pregnant. He can never have normal sex like a male. Yeah. And, I interviewed also, by the way, to put this on national TV for the entire world to see is so vile. I hope that he sues his parents at some point for not being the parents that they should have been and protecting him. But, once this is done, he can also not probably ever go back to being a normal male either. So he is ruined.
I feel so bad because this person, what are they to do? Like, what, I mean, at this point, this person, she looks like a woman, a developed woman, and is expressing, I never feel like myself ever. And we don't talk about the long-term effects. And now we're starting to see this. We're starting to see that this comes out. I don't care if you're 17 and your birthday is tomorrow. You're not a consenting adult.
No.
And this child was exploited their entire life. They were taken advantage of and just displayed, and their parents, I remember because Jazz and I are the same age.
Oh, geez.
And so I remember seeing this video on YouTube when I was like 11 years old and thinking, like, transgender child, how is that even possible? And it's horrible. And so now this person suffers with anxiety, depression, yet they're telling it like they're making the surgery seem like it is life-changing.
It's fun. Oh, and he's like, oh, I get to finally be a girl. And
so affirming. And then we see the long-term effects starting to come out. And it's
I feel bad that there's probably a handful, 5 to 10 people right now in the movement that are speaking out, that are detransitioning. They had to sacrifice their life to experience this, to speak out against it. But I had Matt Ray on my podcast about a month and a half ago. She transitioned into a male as an adult, consenting, et cetera, but she had so many issues with her testosterone. She had to get off of it. And now she's having medical issues that are life altering, like can't leave her house because she's trying to detransition. Well, not really, but she's trying to at least get off the hormones. But on my podcast, she said, I'm not a man. She knows she's not a man. She's never claimed to be a man. She believes in biology. Right. But she said, but I can't be a girl now either. I look like a man. Like, I'm ruined. I mean, to be a child and go through this, and later in life, you're like, where were you, mom and dad?
Right. I mean, and what I've noticed is that then the trans community wants to like denounce these people that are coming out. They're not saying like trans people don't exist. They're not saying don't transition. They're just sharing their experience. And then they're being called a failure, or they're being called a traitor. Like, I thought we were supposed to be uplifting these people.
Right. And so they're not on your side now.
They're coming out with their experience that happened to be negative just to warn people. I mean, and then it's like, well, gender has no look, gender has no, specifics, but yet
then what makes you transitioning?
They want you to go on hormones. Like, or they want you to get that surgery. It's like, well, I thought gender had no.
Right. So then why did you grow your hair out if all women don't have long hair? Why are you wearing fake lashes if we don't have lashes? Why are you wearing makeup? We don't wear makeup. Yeah.
Yep. And then we have people like Dylan Mulvaney, who's getting interviewed by the president of the United States, who's getting sponsored by tampon brands. Why aren't they sponsoring homeless women that can't afford tampons? Why are they not giving period products to women in Nepal that are being trafficked? It's just like, and then a biological man gets sponsored by a tampon company. And then of course he gets backlash because that's freaking weird and ridiculous. And then says, well, if you had a boyfriend or a friend that, had a tampon that he held around for you, would just gush over him. No, I wouldn't. I'd be like, why do you have tampons?
Yeah. Yeah. Who are you cheating on me with that you're carrying tampons around? And also, you'd be like, why don't you be a man? Why don't you carry around cigars or something? I'm okay with you being a man.
I would be so embarrassed if like my friend's boyfriend or something, or like a guy friend of mine just said, oh, I have like tampons. If I was like, oh, need to go to the bathroom real quick. And you're like, oh, I have tampons in there. I'd be like,
you're like, why are you so weird? That's a little perverted.
It is. It really is, And then it's another thing I noticed is that he doesn't even say like womanhood. He says girlhood. And there's also a video that just went pretty viral of his where he's pretending to be Eloise in the Plaza Hotel and is dressed up like a little girl in a skirt and a bow saying, I'm Eloise, I'm 6. And it's like, even if a woman, like a biological woman would do that, it'd be a little creepy, right? But then he's encouraging trans kids to transition, trans kids and be open about it. It's like everything that he posts is literally push for children.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I don't understand, like, you can call me transphobe or homophobe or whatever, but what you're doing is directed towards children, because you don't need to indoctrinate grown adults to change their gender if they think that they can change their gender. They're grown adults. They've decided for themselves. So this bow and this cuteness and this Barbie pouch crap, like, grown adults aren't buying it. So who are you trying to indoctrinate into this? And it's children. So, this is something that I'm pretty sure you and I are going to continue to speak out about and not apologize for it. And biblical beliefs aside, this is for the protection of kids. So, I mean, I'll get called every name in the book before I will shut up about this.
I mean, and let's look at the absolute tragedy that happened yesterday. You see this person took the lives of innocent people, and they happen to be transgender. They happen to not really be comfortable in their own body, identifying as a man, and going into this with such mental illness. And then I don't know if you saw, but our lovely president was talking about ice cream and laughing and making jokes before he decided to address these poor children that were murdered by somebody so mentally ill. But it's the gun's fault.
Totally.
Right?
Yep.
It was the gun was brought up, and no, this person needed help. They literally wrote a suicide note over Instagram to one of their friends, said that they wanted to die, that they wanted to kill themselves, that they just needed to die. And this is what happens, but we don't address that because it doesn't match their narrative. Right. These doctors that are doing these surgeries are making millions and millions of dollars like that.
Yes, absolutely.
And then as soon as you have a mental illness, or maybe you're uncomfortable with your transition, that doesn't help our case.
You're not money, so get out. You're not money. Yeah. Well, I am so refreshed to have someone with your wisdom at such a young age, because I'm thinking I'm 42 and I just got in this fight 3 years ago and I'm trying to kick butt. But if you're going to have 20 years under your belt when you're my age, you're going to be saving the world with Jesus. So let's see, people can find you on Instagram at Savannah Craven. I'll make sure that's in the notes. Anywhere else that you want people to follow you or support, the pro-life movement, Blexit, Students for Life, any of that?
So if you're interested in starting your own pro-life group at your high school, you can definitely contact me at scraven@studentsforlife.org. We have over 1,300 pro-life groups all across the United States, and we just started 2 groups in Puerto Rico. So we're really killing it. And as I said in the beginning, I believe that creating a culture of life starts in your schools. It starts in the parish level as well. And so that's definitely something that we can help you get started if you're interested. And also you can follow me on Twitter and Getter at Savannah Craven 5. I'm on pretty much every platform. So
yay, awesome. Okay, and are you ready for your cheers?
Sure.
Okay. I always throw the cheers out. Do you know what it is?
I don't know what it is.
Okay, so get anything to drink at all, whatever you want, like a cup of water. Okay. And then oh, cute. And then you get to decide what we're cheersing to.
Okay, so we are cheersing to the sanctity and dignity of life, and that one day all people will be able to be born into this country freely.
Good cheers. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the fabulous Savannah Craven. Thank you so much for being on, and thank you for your fight.
Thank you so much, Lindsey.
Thanks for tuning in to the Patriot Barbie Podcast. Follow me on Truth Social at the Patriot Barbie and Instagram at the.patriot.barbie. Subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with your friends. You can find this show, my book Targeted, and my apparel line on www.patriotbarbie.com. God bless America, and God bless you.
Are you worried about spike proteins and how they may impact your health? Are you looking for help? The Wellness Company has an answer in the form of our clean, pure, all-natural spike formula developed by experts like Dr. Peter McCullough. The Wellness Company's spike formula includes the incredible nattokinase, dandelion root, black sativa extract, green tea, and iris sea moss. Even better, the spike formula by the Wellness Company is vegan, gluten-free, and made right here in the US, so you know that you can trust and rely on it if you're concerned about spike proteins.